Okay, so as I was saying, yesterday we solved equations. Okay, I probably didn't stress to you enough on yesterday's Blue 13-2 that what all of those problems had a log on one side of the equal sign. Okay, for instance, let me ooch a little further here. Okay, so like perhaps they looked like this without the, if we covered this up, okay, they had a log on one side of the equal sign over here. Okay, but today they're going to have logs on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, yesterday when they had logs on one side of the equal sign, you did the circle thing over and over and over. Every problem, you do the circle thing. So by Friday, you have to get that in your head, that when you look at a problem and you see where are the logs? Are there logs on two sides of the equation of the equal sign, or is there a log on just one side of the equal sign? Okay, if there's a log on just one side of the equal sign, that's like your blue paper yesterday, and you do the circle thing. If there's logs on both sides of the equal sign, we're going to learn what to do today, and it's pretty easy, okay? So, but before we learn what to do today, we have to learn a rule, okay, a property, and it's called the power property of logs. And it's real simple. All it says is if there's a power, okay, with your log, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, that power can be in the front or it can actually be a power. So you see they have this K right here in the front. So this K could also be back up here as a power. They're interchangeable. You know, you can put them there or there. They kind of float around, okay? And so let's look at a couple of examples like that. It says rewrite using the power property. So this 3 right here, we could put in the front of the log, and it would be perfectly legal to do that. Okay? So here, this 2, we can put him in the front, and it would be perfectly legal to do that using the power property of logs. And then the third example they give us, I don't really see a power here, but there is a power. Does anybody remember what the power is? Well, no, there's a 9. That's the base. Okay? What y'all were thinking of was yesterday, which is good. Y'all are remembering that. If there's not a base, it's a 10. Okay, but this power, how do you change square roots to powers?
Teachers, if you would, please go ahead and make another ID, tablet, dress code, and shaving check at this time. We may have missed some students when we did our first period check. If you have any issues, please send them down to the assistant principal's office. Thank you.
Y'all have your IDs on. Emily, where's your ID? Put it on, okay? Anybody else not have their ID on? Kaylee, you have yours on? Okay. You can rewrite, okay? You can rewrite a square root to the 1/2 power. Okay, you can write a cube root to the 1/3 power. You can write a 4th root, which we don't ever really deal with that too much, to the 1/4 power, right? Y'all remember that a little bit? Okay, so here we can write this square root to the 1/2 power. Okay, so there's some really important things this year y'all have learned in Algebra 2, and that's kind of one of them, you know, that you're going to need to be able to carry over next year to Algebra 3 if you're a junior or a sophomore, or to pre-cal next year. Okay, so now we can put this 1/2 in the front. 1/2 log base 9 of x. Okay, so we had a little bit of practice putting the powers, moving the powers around. Okay, then there's the logarithm law of equality. Okay, b and x and y are all positive. If the bases are the same, and they are, they're both b's, okay, yes, hurry fast, then you can just say that the x's and the y's are the same, okay? So you basically get rid of the logs. If you have logs on both sides, that's what we're doing today. Yesterday's blue paper didn't have logs on both sides. It only had logs on one side. And so what do you do when you have logs on one side? How do you solve them? The circle thingy, right? Okay. So what we're going to do if there's logs on both sides of the equal sign is get rid of the logs. We're just going to cross them out, and that makes it super easy. Okay, so here's an example. But first, there's a 3 in the front, so they put the 3 kind of back where he belongs. And you see them doing that here. And then they get rid of the logs, and they just have x to the third is 1/8. Me personally, I probably wouldn't multiply this to the 1/3. I probably would have done the cube root of it and gotten the 2 that way. But they multiplied it to the 1/3 power, which is okay too. I just think most of us, it's easier for us to see, oh, the cube root of 8 is 2, rather than stare at that all day long and think, what is 8 to the 1/3 power? You know, we don't know that. Okay, but if you saw something to the 1/3 power, you would know, hey, I could change that to the cube root, right? You should know that. Start using these skills. Okay, so let's look at number 4. First of all, I see this 4 in the front, so we need to move him back up here. So let's do that. Back up being a power. Okay? Then, now that we don't have any kind of messy stuff in the front, we can get rid of the logs and just say 3x is 3 to the 4th power. So what is 3 to the 4th power? We had that come up a couple of times yesterday. These are those ones I'm wanting you all to start memorizing. 81, you should know. 3 to the 4th power is 81. Okay, now we're just simply going to divide by 3. And what's 81 divided by 3? 27. That's another one you probably should get memorized. Okay, so x is 27. Okay. Okay, number 5, there's a correction. Change your 1/3 to a 3 on your worksheet. So just kind of scratch out the 1. Okay, so again, he's in the wrong spot. Let's put him up here. For something else, he might be that 3 might be in the right spot. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. So we're going to rewrite it. Log base 2 of 64 equals log base 2 of x to the 3. Really work on these logs, writing those 2 small and then the other bit numbers normal, okay? Okay, now that we have the logs, we have logs on both sides, we just get rid of the logs and we say 64 is x to the 3rd. Okay, how do you get rid of this 3rd root? Or this 3rd power, excuse me, I said it wrong. You can cube root it, right? Y'all know, if I asked y'all what's the opposite of square root, you would say squared. If I said what's the opposite of squared, y'all would say square root. Y'all have that down. So it's the same thing with cube and cube root. They're the opposite of each other. They're inverse operations, and they undo each other. So keep that in mind too, okay? So if I cube root this side, I'm going to cube root this side, right? So what's the cube root of 64? 4, okay? You should be learning 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. I've been kind of saying this for several weeks now when it's come up. Okay? You should be learning 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. That would be a very nice start. Make your math life easier. Okay, so we have x is 4. Okay, so when you have logs on both sides of the equal sign, you clean it up a little bit if it needs cleaning up. And by that I mean putting the power in the front. And then you just kind of get rid of the logs because they divide out. Okay? Okay. So here they're both log base 7. I don't have anything in the front here or anything in the front here. So all I have to do is just get rid of the log. Okay? Now I just use my plain old algebra. How do we solve this? Multiply by 3. If I multiply by 3 on this side, I've got to multiply by 3 on this side. Now that's a true 3. That's not an exponent. That's a normal old 3. Okay? So then 2x equals 36. Okay? Then divide by 2. and x is 18. Pretty easy. Okay? Questions? Okay. Then number 7, so I look at it. I look to see where are my logs. Do I have logs on one side or do I have logs on both sides? I have logs on both sides. So after I clean up, I'm going to get rid of the logs on both sides. Okay, you have to kind of remind yourself of the rules every time. Okay, so I don't have any cleaning up. I don't have any numbers here or here that I need to put back as exponents. So now I just have 3x plus 5 equals 8x minus 12. And we just solve it, okay? I like to move my x's over here to the left, even if I'm going to get a negative x. And my numbers to the right, okay? Then divide by a negative 3. And we have a positive 17/13. Not 13, 17/3. Uh-huh.
Minus 8 and 3.
Oh, I did that. You know what I did? That is 5. I did that on my answer sheet, on my answer key. And so last period, I was looking at it and was going, oh, we got 5. So there's something going on in my brain where I can't get that straight. Sabian caught it for us. Okay, so hang on. That's supposed to be a 5. Did some of the rest of y'all see that too? Okay, so that should be a 5, and then a negative 5, and then a negative 5 there, and then I am determined to make that a 3. I did it on my answer key, and then I caught it last period, so we did it the correct way, but I'm wanting to keep going back to putting a 3 there. Okay. Did y'all get it? The corrections? Okay. And then the last one, is this the last one? Okay. So there is a little guy here in the front. He needs to go back kind of where he belongs. So we need to put him back up here, right? So we're going to get rid of the logs. We're going to say x equals 100 to the 1/2 power. Now, we've talked about what 1/2 power means. What's another way to do 1/2 power? What? What? What did we talk about up here? Some of y'all are saying it, but I want more of y'all to say it. Let's see where to go. On the first page. Look, the 1/2 power means square root, doesn't it? Okay? So, so 100 to the 1/2 power means what's the square root of 100? So what's the square root of 100? 10. Now, let me show you this. If we had x equals 100 to the 1/2, some of you might go, oh, okay, I need to multiply this times 2 to get that to square out. Not times 2, but multiply the power by 2. Okay, raise this to a second power. So then I have x squared equals 100 because all that canceled out. So then I'm like, okay, I need to take the square root of this side to get a plain x, take the square root of this side, and I get 10. I still get 10, but if you'll just know that that means square root of 100, then that'll save you a little bit of time and effort. Okay, and that's where you need to start, learning these things. Get these things down in your head. Okay,